Hi everyone, thanks for joining in. We'll soon start. Just waiting for more people to join. Wow, only 10 waiting. Anyways,
Hi everyone, also hi from my side.
awesome. Nidhi, you wanna go ahead?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Hi everyone. So today we'll be doing a live question and answer session. Till now, we have covered a lot of machine learning courses. You must have seen our webinars on YouTube Live. So, Data Driven Science is basically an AI training company, and we focus on machine learning training through how do we apply it in a thought process and in a practical environment. So it's also practical based. We do a lot of hands-on sessions as well. Till now, we have covered almost the entire pipeline of data science, starting from data collection to visualization, and right till how the machine learning modeling actually takes place. So I'll introduce you to our team. Uh, so we have Ajinkya Kole with us, who'll be the instructor for our courses, and we'll also all be answering your questions today together. I basically work on the content development side. I also work on the social media for DDS. We have Jan, who is the founder of DDS, and we have Prakash with us, who is a lead data scientist and works on big data and on computer vision. So over to you, Ajinkya.
Cool.
Let's start
Thanks,
with the
Nidhi.
questions. Yeah.
So, hi everyone. As you see, we are gonna have some Q&A today, and the place where you can actually vote for questions. So, you see, there are lots of questions which are general mistakes in field of AI. People start learning it, but many a times their point of view or approach of learning AI is wrong, and it takes them a lot of time to learn, and they eventually give up. So rather than making these mistakes yourself, what we want you to do is please go to website called as slido.com, and there simply enter the code as age underscore FAQ. If you go to website slido.com and enter AI underscore FAQ, you will find we have put in these few questions which are extremely common doubts to everyone. So please go through this list of questions which is present there, and please upvote the ones which you think you also have. So we'll be monitoring questions which we get on the chat and the questions which are upvoted the most here. So please go through them, and we'll be just taking questions which are more big picture view, overview, which we are going to talk about the approach of learning. But these are very important because these are the common mistakes everyone makes. So please go there and just upvote the ones which you think we you want us to cover. So we already have got two upvotes of two questions. Let's see, three upvotes. Yes, so we are having upvotes. Thanks for upvoting. So keep doing that, and we'll in some time we'll start the questions which is the most upvoted. So we have 15 people who are watching live, and let's see. Okay, so we have, let's start from answering this question, which is got three upvotes, and we'll start with that. And one by one, we'll go and address into other questions. Okay. So the question is, I'm a working professional, and how do I get into the field of AI? So for this question, I'm a working professional in this field of AI. I come from the instructor side. We have Prakash with us, who is in the practicing data scientist. So we have, Anidhi, who has recently learned ML, and she also has her point of view. So we'll kind of like answer these questions, all three of us. So before you ask this question, so I'll let me start with my answer. So you're a working professional, you want to get into field of AI. Before doing that, you have to know what role are you targeting. So let's say the role which is the most popular is data scientist. It's like in movies, whenever a movie is shot, the person who makes the most money, the person who is the most visible, the get most marketing is the actor, not the stuntman, not the director, not the songwriter, not the story writer, but the actor. It's the same thing in the field of AI. It's the data scientist who has all the fame. the name, and the money. So hence everybody assumes that I want to become data scientist. But to clarify your questions, you should be asking yourself, do you want to become a data scientist or a data analyst or data engineer or a machine learning engineers? These are all different roles in the field of AI, and they all require different knowledge. But no matter the role, the basics of data science, it's kind of like same in all. So how do you get into field of AI? My recommendation is from your current job, look for something which has some bit of AI. It's like you start shifting towards the field of AI slowly instead of trying to directly take a jump and maybe, do a new course, drop out of your job, give notice. And instead of, doing such an extreme step, I would recommend go step by step. Let's say if you're a SQL guy, go into data analyst role and then data science role. If you are somebody, let's say from DevOps learn cloud computing, and from cloud computing you can go into AI ops role. If you have some good maths background, then you can directly start into data science. I would say, based on your current situation, this is the path you can take. That's the best path in my opinion. Prakash, you want to add something? What's your point of view towards this question?
Yes, yeah, thank you, Ajinkya. Hello, everyone. My name is Prakash. So I'll just try to add a bit on these questions. Yeah, being a working professional, it could we cannot assume that you might be in software industry itself or in IT. You might be belongs to the finance, or it could be anything else also. So definitely, from which field you belongs to, your journey might be a little bit different, but more or less the points would be quite similar. That being a professional, it means you have a good understanding of the domain knowledge you are working in. So working on the AI means you want to apply the artificial intelligence, machine learning into the very field you are. So starting on that point, that your journey would be quite non-traditional way, that you first start analyzing yourself, that where you find yourself pretty much aligned in the field of AI. AI is in a big ocean, so you don't need to develop the algorithms if you are not from the background of software engineering and computer science. But there are a way to look at the things and understand the data and everything. So starting on the AI means you take your interest forward and try to connect it with the practical problems people are working on this whole world, maybe in your organization, maybe outside. So start learning from the practical perspective is really very helpful for a professional. And wherever you need a support from the concept perspective, from the knowledge, syntax, anything, you get that knowledge. Mostly for the professional, it would be nice to join some specific online courses for sure. That is really helpful. So getting knowledge from the online courses will be a lot helpful, and keep doing the practice on the free platforms like Kaggle is there. And these days, yes, we don't need any resource actually. Having a laptop works for us. Like we have a Google Colab, we have Kaggle, we have everything. Data is available, problem statement is available to learn the things. So you can put your being a professional, your domain knowledge into the technicality of machine learning, more on the practical sense, and going forward to learn the concept wherever it is needed. So this would be, that will make you more result oriented person, which is slowly getting into the field of AI. So that is like my take on this question. So thank you.
Thanks, Prakash.
Um,
You brought up a very good point, which said that not everyone is from software development background. So if you are from a testing background in field of AI, there is not much yet mature methodology of testing the ML models. So that's
Right.
still something which is lacking, and you could do that, and you could be amongst the frontier of this thing, in which you are the ones who is ensuring there is a proper testing pipeline and methodology for AI. We also have Jan, who is from product management background, so he has also contributed quite a lot in our content. So it's like maybe he can give a point of view about, if you are from management, then how could you get into the field of AI and what could you do? Maybe his perspective will also be fun. Yeah.
yeah, thank you, Ajinkya. Yeah, for sure. I come from the business background, so I don't have a technical background. So for me, getting into AI was an interesting journey. And how I approached it was, first to learn from others, to listen, to watch, and to read, to get an understanding of what AI actually means. And for example, what was incredibly helpful for me was the podcast from Lex Friedman. Maybe you are aware, like if you don't know him, please go to his YouTube channel and subscribe. He does an interview series with incredible people in the AI space, and also very broad. That's, for me, was incredibly interesting. So he also talks to neurosurgeons or neuroscientists to also understand how the brain works, because this is what we want to imitate with AI, the brain. And that was, for me, very helpful to not like go straight into, let's say, machine learning algorithms, like very specific, but first understand a little bit more the big picture. And this is something how, as someone from the business side, was a helpful approach to really see, okay, how others do it, what are some interesting resources, and be fairly broad at the beginning, and then I can narrow down, because then I have the understanding of what AI actually means and what we try to do. So that's just my 2 cents to it. If you're a working professional from the business side, start high level before you take the first, let's say, online course about machine learning. Explore a little bit the space first. And Lex Friedman is, for me, just one example. There are many others, but I think he's a very good person to follow and to learn from.
Nidhi is someone who has recently got into the field from a different background. So not everyone is from software background. So she's from non-computer programming background. So her point of view could also be very useful, because she can tell about her approach, and if you are not from the programming background, that approach might be useful to you. Nidhi, you want to add something?
Yeah, so I'm basically from a production engineering background, and it was more related to the mechanical side. What brought my interest was robotics. When I studied robotics in my final year, I was really interested in how automation and all of that works. And then I was introduced to AI. So then I thought of taking this up as my career. And also, while I was doing my course after my graduation, and we learned so much over there related to how data science works and the different concepts, and how do you make maximum use of the available data you have. I'll share an example with you. This friend of mine who was doing the course with me, so he was an electrical engineer, and after completing our course and learning how to make the best use of data, he literally went and applied that to his company where they had a lot of data relating to the sensors and all of that, which was prior unused. They had not touched anything of that. So he literally became the AI head of that now. So that's the best example that I can think of.
Nice. Good. So I hope you have got 4 different point of views to the same questions. And because everyone is from a different background and doing a different role, you'll find out this is how you can define your own path. The assumption behind this question is there is only one path to get into the field of AI. No, there isn't one. You, based on where you are and where you want to be, there are infinite ways of getting in there, and you simply need to find out. So for example, if you simply search top 10 roles in field of AI and data science, this is a link on KD Nuggets where you'll find a lot of links about data science related fields, where you have data engineer, decision maker, analyst, expert analyst, we have statistician, applied machine learning engineer, then we have data scientist, analytics manager, uh, social scientist. The ethics is also the new thing in field of AI now. Researcher, and then some extra people like people like this. All of these are part in to come under the field of AI. All of this, it's a multi-dimensional field. So you are not restricted to just becoming one thing out of them. You have lots of option with us. Just find out the one which suits you the most. That would kind of like summarize this question. I hope this answered the question.
I just try to add a bit at the last in concluding the answer for these questions.
Please do.
So it is something that try to understand that you are a professional, working professional. So every working professional might have their own customized journey to get into the field of AI. For the example, I come from a mathematical background, and suppose I want to get into the artificial intelligence, then I know that my strongest point lies within the technicality of mathematics. So there I can get as my weapon to get into the AI. But if you come from a business background, it means you are pretty much good on domain experience. You understand the business perspective. You understand the data of business perspective. So that might be a starting point for you. So it is definitely a customized journey for every working professional. So first to figure out that what is your strongest perspective, what is your exposure so far, utilize that exposure as an starting point and get into the field of AI. Because AI is most of it is based on the data driven approach. It is something you learn by experiment. It's not a quantum physics where you learn everything then you go to the experiment. Here you experiment and you learn eventually to become the expert. So that is like just my last the point I wanted to add here.
Awesome. That's a really accurate representation of how the journey is going to be. It's going to be customized for every one of you, and you have to pick and connect the dots going forward to eventually land in the field of AI. If you do that, you'll find your journey much smoother. So I hope that answered your question. I'll mark this as answered, and then let's see what else questions we have. So then the next most popular question is, what are the prerequisites of learning machine learning? So let's start with Prakash, who is the one who's from the maths
Yes.
background. Let's get his opinion first, and then we'll all pitch in.
Yes, so that definitely very interesting question, and mostly people misassume about this prerequisite part of machine learning. Although I come from a technical and scientific background, but my take would be that the prerequisite for learning the machine learning is just your intellectual, just your interest. You don't need to know the mathematics and statistics. You don't need to know anything. If you are not from a computer science background, that doesn't really make any difference. Only the thing is that you just need to put your intellectual and your interest. So as I earlier also stated, that learning the machine learning is all about understanding the analogy of learning, that this time you are not controlling the logic of your program and output, but machine is learning and doing it for you. It means you need to understand the whole environment. So and end of this learning, you might be sitting at the point where you are evaluating the machine learning algorithm. You might be developing it, you might be testing it, and you might be taking into the production. So definitely somebody who's not doesn't come from the background of mathematics or even any scientific department, it doesn't really make much difference. It is all about the intellectual and having interest. Yes, just one point I would like to emphasize here: machine learning is the field which is a experimental, a empirical field. You need to study a lot, you need to explore a lot, so that you should be always ready when you want to enter into the machine.
Yes. So like Prakash said, this is exactly right. The misconception many people have is like, first I need to know all the probability, then I need to know all the linear algebra, then I need to know all the matrices, then I need to know all the statistics, and only then I'm ready to go into machine learning. That's the common assumption, and that is not correct, because as we said in the previous question,
Achinkya? I think he froze.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Achinkya will be back right away. Is he
yes,
back?
sorry,
I think he's back.
yes, I'm back. Yes. So internet connection problem. So as I was mentioning, the last time where I got cut off was there are a lot of roles, and according to the role, there is a different prerequisite level. If you are joining in as a statistician, of course the stats is going to be the prerequisite. Not if you are going to be the applied ML engineer, then the cloud computing, you need to know cloud computing, you need to know DevOps tool, you need to know data analytics tools. If you are joining in as, let's say, someone from, let's say, data analyst, then you need to know dashboarding tools, you need to have a key insight into how data patterns are there, what patterns are important, what are not. you know if you are a decision maker, if you are a domain person, so maybe Jan, if he's joining a data science company, then he will most likely be going in either as a decision maker or someone from the domain knowledge. So for them, it's going to be a deep insight into the domain in which the data science project is going to be done. That is going to be the prerequisite. So you see, based on, again, what's your background and what's the role you are targeting, the prerequisite is going to be different. And the most popular prerequisite is actually, which is available on internet, is this for researcher. So when you simply Google the question, what's the prerequisite, you are going to get this answer. You need linear algebra, you need probability, you need math, you need this. So like if you are going to do that prerequisite, I think it might take you 4 years. That's how much prerequisites are. But that's only if you're becoming a researcher. Most people are either going to be developers or AI engineers. For them, the prerequisites are not that deep. And this is very common mistake because of which people fail to learn machine learning. So when I was learning, so it's like I knew around maybe 1,000 people who were regular into meetups of AI. But out of 1,000 people, I think eventually only 10 people learned. So the percentage of people who actually learn ML is maybe 1%. So 99% of people drop off because they go for a rapid prerequisite route. They are aiming to be researcher, and these prerequisites are too huge. Whereas for others, these prerequisites are much more manageable. I, for example, didn't have that extensive prerequisite knowledge Prakash had. He comes from maths background. So he would know all the stuff which was actually in the prerequisite. But maybe he himself can tell you how much did he use that knowledge into the actual job.
Definitely, it's quite interesting that all the prerequisite is quite decorative in these days. But when it comes to actual work, even in, working on the applied research and product, we don't think everything in terms of probability, in terms of statistics. It is our knowledge and it's our intuition which actually works with the experimentations. So I really support the answer from the Ajinkya that it is not about the prerequisite mentioned in the Google search that you need to know the probability metrics and all these things. We can just summarize in a that I could conclude this in a one statement, like when you need to learn a language to speak, so you don't learn the each and every word of the language before you want to speak it. You just learn few and start speaking, and eventually you don't know, but you learn the grammar and everything about the language. This is how data science and machine learning works. So do not think much about prerequisite. Just start with what is your strongest point, and eventually your journey will be taken off the way you are designed yourself. So yeah, that's very important.
Perfect. That's a great
That's
way to conclude. Because Jan also comes from non
yeah.
mathematical background, right?
Yes, a non-mathematical background, and just to make one point, and actually, Chinka, you already mentioned it. Just wanted to highlight it. Um, in my opinion, a prerequisite is you have to be curious, like curiosity about solving problems. Because at the end, like all what you do with machine learning or data science is to solve a problem, and you have to think about those problems. What do you want to solve? So I think that type of curiosity in whatever organization you work, that you identify, okay, what are the problems we can solve through machine learning, through data science, and this is for me a very that's a prerequisite, that you have to bring that strive for problem solving. Because at the end, if you're outstanding in the technical implementation, but you work on the wrong problems, for example, or don't have ideas about what to solve, that's not going to be helpful. So really think about the problem solving as well. That's just a point I wanted to make.
Awesome. Cool. That then we can mark it as answered. Then the next questions. Okay, we have quite a lot of questions. So let's take the next most highest voted. The question which is how to build a portfolio to get started. So you see, there is a thing called as either we can call it catch 22 or we can call it chicken and egg problem. Which came first, chicken or the egg? How did chicken come first if there was no egg? How would egg come if there was no chicken? It's catch 22. So same thing is in this field of data science. How do I get hired if I don't have experience? But how do I get experience if I don't get hired? So this is the catch 22, which is generally very common, that freshers, they do have knowledge, but they can't convince the employers that my knowledge is actually useful. And that's when we actually dial back to this place called as Kaggle. So if you go in Kaggle, to learn anything, you have to persuade that you can actually solve problems. Because in the job, you will be paid to solve the problems the company is facing. If you can prove that you have actually solved the problems, then you don't have to worry about lack of experience. So this is what we have on Kaggle. If you go, you'll find there are lots of competitions. Okay, instead of this competition, let me open a category. There is a recruitment category. So in the past, these many companies actually hired their data scientists by this competition. So around a year ago, this was the career cons competition. Mu Sigma is a finance company trading this thing. They actually hired a recruitment drive via this thing. This is insurance company, Facebook. Facebook had run, I think, 2 or 3 such competitions to hire data scientists for their team. So as you can see, you want to get hired, you can kind of like use, Kaggle, or there are lots of such problems. You build portfolio by solving such problems, which, proves that you have knowledge. If you go into user ranking, I keep mentioning this thing. So if right now, right, what it takes to be a novice, I'll tell you. If you create a profile, you are automatically novice. What it takes to be contributor, if you update the about me section and simply run other people's code 2 times, you automatically become contributor. So 76,336 people have only created account and never opened Kaggle. 54,887 people have created account and just done some basic stuff. If you become expert, this expert is compared to a totally new person. Here expert means they are expert compared to a total beginner, but in reality anyone can become expert with just 2 to 3 months of being on Kaggle and learning data science. The true opportunity starts when you become master, and it is not difficult. It takes at most half a year. So your portfolio involves working on the data sets which are on Kaggle or on the competitions, getting good rank here, or maybe going to, let's say, where you can go to Reddit, you can find different data sets there. There are lots of places where there are problem statements. So doing that, you build portfolio and you can then host it on GitHub. You can then showcase it on YouTube. You see, visibility comes only after you have something worth enough showing. Many people on LinkedIn and Twitter, many people who are just beginning, they focus on the visibility in the beginning. No, you focused on the problem solving and development in the beginning, and then you put it on GitHub. Then you put the demos on LinkedIn. Then you put it on GitHub, Facebook, or other places like Twitter, and then you keep getting traction. In your portfolio, you should not have extremely small problems. I see some people put problems like which are here. So if you go into all categories, there is a playground category. So these things, the playground ones is like extremely small problem. There is getting started one. These are extremely small problems. So these are not the ones you should be working on. These are not the ones which will add to your portfolio. Work on a bit more complex problems, solve them, and that will develop your portfolio. So that's what is my approach. Prakash, you want to add something?
Yeah, I think pretty much you have included what was my thought also. Don't underestimate the power of this Kaggle. because portfolio in machine learning is not just working on some projects in your company, but if you can show your skills through these competitions, it would give you a good start. So definitely that's worth mentioning here. And yes, apart from that, I would say that if you come from a different background in computer science, then because being a fresher, if you want to start in a data science, and then for sure your Kaggle and your GitHub will help. But knowing some knowledge of data structures and algorithm would be a great combination. And for the experienced people, for sure, it would be a little different. But more or less, practical applications and experience is very important. So Kaggle will really one of the destination for learn and build a nice portfolio. And Kaggle is not just like getting, if you're working on a good Kaggle problems and you solve their problems, you improve their model, you can start your research career itself from there. People do publish research papers once they improve the results. So my take would be, don't underestimate the power of this Kaggle platform. Be with honest and give a good try on that to build a portfolio. That would be sufficient.
There was a research problem which I read. There was a competition which had around $50K as a prize. The researcher actually he published that competition had a few data leakage in the data itself. So he actually contacted the organizer saying that because of this you would not have the most effective solution because there is this data leak. You should change your data how it is named, and then you would get a better solution. So he found a problem in the problem, and when he kind of like would have published around it, so it's like definitely people will be able to find him very valuable because he is able to question the assumptions and find out loopholes in the assumption. That also builds an amazing portfolio and visibility.
And I also think with a portfolio, it is not only the technical implementation, but also think about the presentation. How do you communicate? How do you understand what the whole project, for example, is about? So everything around the actual technical implementation is important too. So if I'm a hiring manager, I not only want to know about, okay, how did you do this? I also want to know, why did you do this? What were the results? What was the improvement at the end? So when you build a portfolio, really make sure also in terms of how you communicate, how to present, that you go a little bit beyond the just raw technical implementation as well.
Yeah, so I would also like to add that there are two more things. There's hackathons and there's networking. So hackathons are one of the greatest way to learn something new. It's like you're given a competition and you're made to work in a team. So it's mostly like companies arrange these. Nowadays, I can find it online as well. So try applying for different hackathons and networking and mostly on LinkedIn. So you should know how to communicate on LinkedIn, as Jan said. And suppose you've learned something new from a seminar today or any other time, you can write a short, like you can create micro content, you can start posting on LinkedIn. That way you'll get, that way people will notice you more, and you can start writing blogs. Yeah, so these are a few things I'd like to add.
So Gary Vee's entire empire is based on how prolific he is as a content creator. So that's also one of the ways you could build portfolio for this. Definitely. Awesome. So should we mark this question as answered?
Yeah.
Should we?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So done. Now let's see. We have next question is this. I've done a few MOOCs, and how do I get hired without experience? So I think we have answered this question already, right? The portfolio, when you portfolio, this will help you get hired without experience. This is the kind of like quick summary of what we have said until now. Because you see, you're not going to be hired for one specific thing. Most likely you would be working end to end with all other aspects of a project portfolio or of a project solution, which is going to go from starting to end. So to know that, to know everything in that entire portfolio, you actually need to have experience of the entire phases of a project. You can only do that if you participate on Kaggle, work on actual competitions, actually solve a problem for any data set. That builds your knowledge. And then once your knowledge is visible, once you have portfolio, your website, GitHub, LinkedIn, Twitter, then anybody who is kind of like gonna be looking at your resume, then you will actually get at least a chance to prove your knowledge. You see, having a degree from, let's say, Stanford, if you have a data science degree from Stanford, you will most likely be shortlisted, but you will be only hired on your knowledge after you are shortlisted. So the good degree is just your way through the door. It doesn't ensure you get in the job. It's just your entry criteria. It's the same thing here as well. When you have done MOOCs, you might not get a chance because the assumption is you don't have a deep enough knowledge. If you can remove that risk, if you can prove from the background that you already have a knowledge, then this actually changes a lot of things. This makes uh, the people who are hiring you, it kind of like removes the risk, and it makes them much more likely to give you a chance. So if you are invisible on Google, you are invisible in real. So hence the portfolio is important. You have to be visible. I mean, if you don't have knowledge, then you are visible to people as stupid. You have to have knowledge first and then be visible, not without the knowledge. That's how I look at it. And if you do that, I am sure you will have no problem getting hired even after learning online, because I have learned from online courses only. That's my few cents to it. Prakash, you want to add
Yeah.
something here?
Yeah, I think pretty much you explained, and while we talk about the portfolio, things are covered. So without experience and having MOOCs, it means you have done with your knowledge, and it's all about the hands-on. So just to adding the last question, then last point on that perspective is that beside the Kaggle, it would be great that you can start with some open source contribution also, because companies and organizations really give much values if you've done that and it's quite transparent and visible. So without having project knowledge and project experience, with the Kaggle and such kind of like open source contribution will make things happen.
Awesome. And so, Jan, you would have talked to people who are doing hiring for their companies. Do you have any perspective to add about the hiring? Do they prefer people with official degrees, or they don't mind? What's been your experience around this?
I think it becomes less important. Of course, people still look at degrees, but at the end, it's much more how you also present yourself. And even though if you don't have that much experience, in my opinion, if you apply for a job and you want to get your foot in the door, show the company, show the hiring manager that you're interested, that you want this job. Show how you can contribute, what your value can be to the company. Be interested. Like, these are more general interview tips, but I think they're so important. And many people don't do it. They just send their resumes and then they wait that they get a call from the HR department or the hiring manager. No, be proactive. And if you have someone on the phone, share ideas, like do some research on the companies and tell the hiring manager, oh yeah, I looked at your product and I think we could do this and we could do that. Like, when I interviewed people, that was always for me, like, I didn't care that much about what they did before. I care about what they can do in the future on my team, in the company. So this is, I think, this is more general, like whatever job you're going for, but please keep this in mind. And it's then your experience in the past. Yeah, but you can explain it. You just got started in the field. Yes, I've did a few online courses. I did a few projects. I don't have much, but I'm hungry. I want to do this. I want to work for your company. And a hiring manager will see that. If you bring that fire to the table, that person will see it and will hire you. So don't get discouraged if you don't have that experience or that much experience yet. You just get started, but just show that you want to do it and you can do it, and you will have a good chance.
And when you have that fire, you will definitely have taken action to act according to the fire, because when there is a fire there is smoke. If there is no smoke, then people will understand he's just using words. You have to have that fire, and you should actually be hungry. Then you can talk about your attempts, about what you have done, what are the different your approaches you have tried. Then you can actually convince hiring manager. I'm sure Prakash would have taken interviews. What was
Yes.
your point of view? I mean,
So,
what were you looking for
so
while
from
hiring?
I just wanted to add one organizational perspective here, that somebody has done courses and without experience. So try to understand that any organization in this whole world are not the people of just expertise. In every organization, people are needed for each and different roles. People are from fresh grades to expert. Every organization has like their hierarchy, their work structure in a way that they need people from a different experience to no experience to higher expertise. So yes, for the some designations, for the some things, there might be upfront requirement of your official degree and all these things, but try to understand it in a logical manner. In a team of 100 people, there would be 2 or 3 experts, but there will be 50 engineers, there will be 50 analysts. So more chances of getting a job with the just doing some course is more than becoming an expert. So definitely don't fear about that if you don't have a very relevant degree or relevant experience, because no organization is just made of only the experts. So you have a better chance if you are done your coursework nicely and if you're having your hands on by Kaggle and all these things. I do follow same procedure while I interview based on the
Awesome.
what I really need actually. So definitely you have one leader, one expert from Stanford, but there will be 50 engineers who are implementing machine learning solutions, and and company do not seek every engineer from Stanford or some any prestigious organization. So we need to keep this thing in mind, be fearless, and yes, use your fire, get into the job.
It's the same thing with me. When I got into data science as a trainer, I didn't have an experience, but it's like Jan said, like Prakash said, I had that fire, and I actually had a lot of things to show for the efforts I did. So, for example, you're asking, when I was asking, I didn't get any answers. So instead of asking which course are good, I did all the courses. And then I found, okay, these courses are good. Instead of finding which books are good, I would do read all the books and see which ones are good. And when you have done all that efforts, the hiring people, they will see that they will not hire you for who you are now, but they will hire you for who you will become in the future. And you don't have to worry at all. There is a huge lack of people who have that initiative and drive. And this is not just in data science, this is true across industries. Anyone with drive, they will never have problem of getting hired. That's my honest opinion.
That's really nice, actually. Yeah, the way you explained. Yes, I completely agree.
Awesome. So Jan, what's been your point of view?
Yeah, I think what I said, like you have to bring that, be hungry, have the fire, and
Awesome.
don't be confident as well. I think that's also something, right? That's important. Um, Even if you're a fresher, like yeah, that's what you are at that point, and go for it. And don't, as we all have gone through interview experiences, and we wanted to have a job, we didn't get it, we got like disappointed. I think we all had those, and it's a tough feeling. No one likes that feeling, to get the email from the HR and said like, oh, we really enjoyed talking to you, but we don't think you're a good fit right now, but we keep your name in the system in case something in the future comes up. Like, probably a lot of us have gotten that email, and it doesn't feel good, I know. But on the other hand, that's kind of, all right, then for the next one, for the next one, for the next one. And eventually you will find something, you will get something. So yeah, stay stay motivated, and it will work out.
Let's see. Marking this. And we have this question, which is the highest voted. How to learn machine learning and from where, and how to start and where to practice. So kind of like this question is a subset of three questions. One, how to learn, from where to learn, and once you have learned, where to practice the knowledge which you have learned. Let's see, Jan, you want to start, from how to learn approach? I think your point of view will be useful here.
How to learn machine learning. I think it's also, we talked at the beginning of that Q&A session a little bit about it. And my point of view here was that when I started with like a business background, non-technical background, that I really wanted to learn from others. So instead of like going right away, like hands-on like online courses and trying to do coding and learning Python and something like this, I started from a higher level. And I mentioned it before, maybe some people joined since then. So Lex Friedman, he has a really great YouTube channel and a great podcast. And that was very enlightening for me to hear from a lot of people in the data science community from different areas, and to also understand a little bit what to learn, what's out there, because there are so many resources and there are many different perspectives on what to do and what to learn. So I think that's for me one recommendation is to start a little bit higher level, especially if you are completely fresh to that topic, and maybe even from a non-technical background, and then diving deeper into it. But I think someone like Nidhi can probably even provide more insights here, as she has actually gone through that experience recently.
Yeah, sure. So since my background was not computer science, I first had to learn coding from scratch. And that's where I personally started my journey. So yeah, that was a little difficult for me seeing the change in background. But since I was really interested in it, it was a fun way to learn something new. And yeah, so that's how I started learning machine learning. And then I did not learn the complete part of maths that's required. So I actually had a few mentors who told me what specific part of maths you require. So then I started off with a little bit of linear algebra, like some part of probability and statistics. Like only those few topics were sufficient to learn machine learning ahead. And then after that, I started learning machine learning. Then again, it's like going into supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and then learning on projects was the way I learned the most. Learning on projects, working in teams together, coming up with new ideas simultaneously, trying which solution works, which does not work. So yeah, and again, as we discussed, how to practice, Kaggle is the best way to practice if you're just starting. If not, then there are a lot of free data sets available online. You can go to Google data sets and search. You can go to Reddit data sets. These are a few. And if you need a few book recommendations, so there is Artificial Intelligence by Russell and Novick. That's how I started my AI learning. And for machine learning, I just refer to all the O'Reilly books available. There are machine learning for all topics, like for the statistics part, for learning Python, for learning machine learning algorithms, and so on.
Yeah. Good point, Nidhi. Start, at that time, it's very important to start from simple things. If let's say you are let's say starting trekking, you don't want your first trek to be Everest. Most likely you will die or you'll give up. It's the same thing while learning AI and ML. Based on where you are, you have to first know choose the right resources from your current knowledge, and then about how. So you see, machine learning or AI or data science, it's all about automating decision making from patterns in the data, right? But where does human come into picture? If there is fixed rules, or fix something based on something, output is come. A human is going to come where human is going to bring its own insight into the problem. A human can question the question. A human can actually maybe think of a different way of doing something. These are the things which are very important, which we have to do. So how to learn machine learning? Simply, try to look deeper at the problem statement, try to look at the domain knowledge, try to question the assumptions, try to think about your thinking. This is all called as meta. When you think about your thinking, this is meta. So you can find out your own biases. You can try to, find out different situations where this same problem statement could be applicable. So when you do this, all this experimentation, this is when you understand much deeply. So everyone is learning from the same resources. The one who learns the most is the one who looks the deepest. You see, if you are just covering the shallow end of the book, you are not going to learn much. But more you try to think on the book, more you learn from the book. Next time you will notice even more. The same approach is true whether you are doing courses or doing books. So that's the how approach, in my opinion. It will serve you really well no matter what you are learning. That's my point of view. And where to practice, we have mentioned Kaggle is the kind of like industry popular place, and maybe the resources will compile list and will put that list into the end of this YouTube description. We'll put the list of those resources for you. So I hope that is answer. Anyone else want to add something to this question?
Yeah, just last thing to add is that just like learning any skills, to learn the machine learning also, please set your target. So when I said to set the target, it doesn't mean to get the job or something, but learning should be stepwise. So set your target for 15 days or for a month, and in your target, ideally, it should include few concepts. It should include few coding part if you are a fresher, and then at least some practical problems. So when you set such kind of targets and keep achieving the target one after another, eventually after applying this process for few iterations, you could get your knowledge and skills on track. So you have to set your target and be honest with that. That is more important. And completing that target, as we already talked, Kaggle is there. Whole lot of machine learning courses are there, and everything, books and all these things are there. So keeping in mind, tracking your target would be very helpful.
Awesome. Good. Thank you. Let's mark this question as answered. It's almost just 7 minutes to go. We have lots of questions. I mean, we won't be able to cover all of them. How should we go about now, Jan? What should we do?
Yeah, I would say let's maybe answer the, let's see, the should learn ML. Yeah, let's just answer this. Computer get a job at data analyst. I think we answered this kind of before.
Right. This we have answered. How is this thing is not relevant? Which programming language is easiest? Okay, this thing.
Yeah, maybe
we'll answer
programming.
the one word. One word
Yeah,
answers will kind of like answer them. So let's take this question. Which language is the easiest for AI? So if you are starting from legacy, the most popular language for AI was R. Going forward, it is Python. If you are going into high performing part of AI, then maybe it might be Swift. Industry has not yet arrived at which language is going to be the most high performant one. But for learning, Python is definitely the industry standard. I think Prakash and Nidhi will both agree. Don't go for
yes.
R, just go for Python.
Yeah, Python is well sufficient. Having all library, frameworks, dataset, everything to access. So Python is the one answer.
Yes. So let's mark this as answered. Let's see which ones are. Oh, we can do that. We'll do this. Let's see.
Yeah.
Let's take this question. So is machine learning the only way we can make an AI, or there are any other ways? So we see AI is a big branch, and under AI there are sub branches. So machine learning is sub branch of AI, which is one way of solving AI. Then there is another way of doing AI, which is deep learning. It is generally used for natural language processing or image processing, video processing, audio processing. That's one way. There is other way, which is reinforcement learning, which is kind of like, trial and error of different things. So that is the reinforcement learning. So generally, these are the three branches, and you choose the one according to your problem. So answer is no. Machine learning is not the only way to do an AI. There are generally now three major umbrellas under the AI which you use to solve problems. So let's mark this as answer. Let's check some more. Here. So there is one question here. Should I first learn all the ML algorithms and then do a project, or practice while learning various algorithms? So yeah, this is a good question you have asked. Prakash, you want to take it?
Yes. So I just answered in very short. Just learn one machine learning algorithm and apply it. And once you find that your algorithm answers and result are not so sufficient, then you will have a exact direction what should be the second algorithm to learn and apply. So don't learn all, just learn one and apply it, and learn further algorithms as you need, as your direction says. That's all.
Yes. Do it on as need basis. So this
Yes.
thing is called as shallow copy. So if you are into Java or Python, something, this is like on demand copy. So only a reference is copied, and when there is a change, then only actual copy is done. It's this here we can call it a shallow learning. So learn when needed. It's the lazy evaluation of learning. Don't start with going for all the algorithms. There are at
Yes.
least 300. Your lifetime won't be enough for learning all the algorithms.
Yes.
So I would recommend three algorithms which are really popular: linear regression, logistic regression, SVM, and random forest. Four algorithms. These are extremely popular. These are more than enough. I would say start with one, then actually you will learn more by doing the project rather than going into depth of algorithms. So Prakash and me, we have answered this. Don't take this approach. This is the approach. So let's mark his answer. Let's see.
Your views.
Pandas, this thing. Okay, this we have answered. So the math part is like this part we have answered already. So it's too difficult. If you're going for a researcher, you will need it. But if you're going for ML developer, you will not need that much depth of maths.
Yes.
So we have talked about it. You can go back to the question in the video and your answer, you can be answered. Let's see. Then basics of data science, CV. So in machine learning, there is a term called as overfitting. Okay, overfitting means that you are only the master on that specific problem. Overfitting means you don't know, you can't do anything on new data. So the questions like these, what kind of projects will grab the attention as soon as you see CV, or what should I mention on my CV to increase my chances to get a call? These are the questions which remind me of overfitting, which are like specific questions. Tell me which project. No, this project is going to give you answer. There is no such thing which is like a specific project will give you more probability. It's not about the problem. It's about how you solve the problem. So while
Yes. Right.
hiring, people won't look at the problem. I mean, Iris is an extremely simple problem data set. Iris or Titanic, they are so common. But somebody could come up with a novel and extremely unique way of doing it, and then that will become very impressive. There is this thing called as boss sensor. So this thing is on a library on GitHub. So what this person did is he kind of like created a face recognition project. In this recognition on webcam, he created a project wherein when his boss is coming to his computer used to do a notification that your boss is coming towards you. Stop doing that. Starting to work. So this was, if you want to implement this, doing face recognition and doing code for it is extremely simple. But this project is a very interesting. So if you take a look at the stats, this has been starred around 6,000 times. This has been forked around 1,000 times. I read somewhere that this person, he got for better project because this project was noticed. Is this complex problem? No. Is this interesting? Definitely yes. So the questions like this, what should I mention? What kind of like project will grab attention? It's not about the project. It's how you solve that project, then how you can communicate the project solution, how confident you are in the counter questions which come on it, how can you justify your approach. These are all complex things. They will together inform whether you will get a call or a job or something. That's my answer for it. Jan or Prakash, you want to add something to these two questions? What kind of projects or what should I mention? These two.
Okay, so I just want to give a conclusive aspect on that. See, machine learning works on basically three learning principles. Very first, keep your model and learning simple and straight. So that you need to apply for your learning machine learning in your real life also. Only learn simple things of machine learning to start it. Second point is don't have don't have biasness. So you must not have a bias towards the job opportunities. You must not have a biasness towards what other people are doing. And the third particular perspective is do not snoop into the data when you solve the machine learning problem. Same applies to you as a machine learner candidate, that do not snoop into the specific opportunity at the organization to learn a specific thing, whether it is a chatbot, whether it is an image processing system. Just learn journal things and it will make you happen a good machine learning professional for sure. Yeah. So all these things, what to get into the CV and all things, no interviewer will look at your problems in a way, but they will look at your problem solving approach. So keep things simple and convincing, which must show your understanding and your hard work on that. So problem statement will not make sense, but your solution and your approach will make difference in the interviews. Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, you have something to add? Anybody else has something to add on question? No. Awesome.
No, I think all answered well.
I think we have answered, most common questions that got most upvotes, and these are extremely common. Oh, I like this question. Let's maybe try to take this question as final. So the question is, what are your views on democratization of machine learning? So what is happening is machine learning is becoming simpler because of the UI, the tools which have come. Right now we have TensorFlow, which has and PyTorch, which has made distributed machine learning easy. It was very complex before. Right now we have tools like Azure Studio or SageMaker, or there are H2O or this thing. These are UI tools which do AI in the background. We also have AutoML, in which you simply give and these AutoML problems usually completely. That's the third new research which is coming. And also fourth type of we have ready-made APIs for solving the problem. So OCR, video analysis, companies have already solved that problem and they have created APIs for you to directly use. That's the fourth new thing which has come into AI. And there is fifth thing, which is ready-made models. There are models which have already been developed. You can simply directly use them to your problem without doing anything. So these all things combined say that machine learning is being democratized. What does it mean? It is becoming accessible to everyone. Even though machine learning is getting democratized, anyone who has a good conceptual knowledge of the field and who can actually solve problems, they will never become irrelevant. The easy approach will solve easy problems, but there are always much more complex problems out there which will need people with expertise to solve them. It's just the simple problems which will be affected by democratization. The complex won't be. So your in-depth knowledge, it will never become irrelevant. That's my opinion. Prakash, what are your thoughts on this? You have been in
Yes,
this.
yes. I completely agree on that part. Human intelligence is the superior one. And so if democratization of machine learning goes even exponential, it is not bad. It is good only because more machine learning around you, it means more projects and products are being created and more people are needed actually. So we need not to afraid about that. We should appreciate this is an opportunity to get exposure to the machine learning to every single person, and having a knowledge up to the concept and fundamentals is definitely give you chance, because no machine can take over to the human. So any human having an intelligence and knowledge is definitely always secure and should be fearless in the field.
Awesome. So anyone else want to add something on here?
No, I think it's generally like be adaptable and we see something similar with like web development, right? A few years ago, like you had a lot of web developers, people moving into that space, learning web development, and now you have a lot of tools out there that people actually can build very easily a website, drag and drop. But that doesn't mean that we don't need any web developers anymore. There's still people learning web development. So we will continue needing web developers, even though there are amazing tools out there now. So don't be discouraged. Like the tools will make it easier for you and you can refocus. But it's just like you also have to keep up and you have to continue learning and adapting to like the new environment. And then use those tools, right? Use them to your advantage. And that may actually make you even more productive, more powerful. But it lies a little bit on you. Like, but nonetheless, like, don't be afraid.
Yes. Yeah. Just a closing statement on that. Web development tool will be developed by web developers only. So if you are that developer, you don't have to be fearful for it. So keep improving your
Same for
knowledge.
machine learning. AI will be done by AI.
It
Keep
applies for
focus on the
every
knowledge.
Yes, it applies to every technical knowledge. So if you know the machine learning, you will be the one who will develop the tools and democratizes, not the one who will keep aside because of any fear. Yeah.
Right. Yes. Makes sense. Awesome. So I hope this was useful, everyone. We have okay. I mentioned 5 points of democratization. There was just mention on chat which talked about. Can I list down what was the 5 points on democratization? Maybe I'll just repeat that. So democratization means one was libraries. 2015 onwards, many companies developed their libraries to make development of data science easier. Then came Keras, which made it even easier. So one, development of libraries; two, development of UI tools; three, development of AutoML tools; four, development of ready-made APIs; five was the development of ready-made models. These five things correspond to democratization of machine learning. So it's like what it is doing, it is making it easier, but it is not making your worth obsolete. That's the kind of like key insight. So don't worry about it. Keep learning. Go full force ahead. Become an expert. You will always be needed. That's kind of like a concluding remark. And I hope this Q&A session answered the most frequently answered questions. We will hopefully try to have similar sessions in the future. We are expecting more people, but I don't know why we have had less people joining in. But if you think it might be useful in your company or your college, just let us know. We'll figure out how we can read this and just let us know in comments or something. And thanks a lot for listening. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Yeah.
Bye.